This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Mic Up Podcast Productions. We do two things. Number one is we launch amazing podcasts that'll change the world. Number two, we take over podcasts that have fallen under the wayside and we revamp them, relaunch them, and take care of all the unnecessary work that you or your team don't want to do. So, have you wanted to grow your personal brand, your influence, your authority? Have you wanted to create endless content for social media so that you can be seen as the go-to in your space? Have you wanted to build your confidence, become a better communicator, create more amazing relationship, cultivate really meaningful relationships? If so, then you need a podcast, and I'd love to help you out. And if you have a podcast and you realize that, man, I underestimated the amount of work. I'm busy. My team's busy. I just don't have the resources to do it, but I don't want to sacrifice because I know the long-term gain of this is going to really help my business at building trust in my audience. It's going to put me at a level of authority. Well, then I need to keep this going, but I need somebody that knows what they're doing. I need an expert. This is where we can help. So whether you're brand new, you want to launch a show, or you have a show and you just don't have time and it becomes stagnant, or it's not even active, we'll help you out. What we can do is you guys can send us a DM, send me a DM on Instagram. What I'll do is I'll send you a survey, answer the questions, and we'll see if we're a good fit. We're looking at for about 5 entrepreneurs or business owners that we can take on, and we want to help you do that. We're only going to work with people that we feel qualify and align with our values of our team and our vision. I'm not working with just anybody. I've made the mistake in the past of taking on people that don't align with our values that won't do it. So I want to be super, super clear. If you are interested, you want to know more, hit me up in the DMs on Instagram, lance.essihos, and message me, ask me about the podcasting, and I'll send you the survey. All right. Enjoy the episode. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to University of Adversity. We have a very special guest for you today. If you've seen the Netflix docu-series Cocaine Cowboys, you're in for a treat. And if not, this is a great conversation regardless. And there's so much value that we get from this. So the interesting story around this is Dr. Jorge Valdes is joining us today. He was one of the original Cocaine Cowboys. And what I love about him is his message. It's not about glamorizing the gangster lifestyle. It's about talking about, the consequences that lifestyle can bring, and talking about the narco mindset, about what it means to change your life with your mindset. We get into all of that. And what's even cooler about this is that we have a mutual friend. His name's Roman, and he's got a podcast called Digital Savage Podcast. And he was telling me about this guy a year before Cocaine Cowboys came out. He's telling me his stories, like, you got to reach out to him. And I said, yeah, great. But as things happen, I kind of forgot about it. I get sent a lot of awesome people, and, the follow-up sometimes is challenging. So he fell between the cracks. But then later I see that once Cocaine Cowboys came out, that this is the same guy that Roman was telling me about. So we're mutual friends. And I said, I got to get him on. So as soon as I saw the show, I was like, hey, we gotta get you booked. And he said, sure. He loved the idea of University of Adversity and talking about it. So here we go. And what I really admire about him is that he really wants to stay true to himself and really make sure that the message is around something positive, your mindset. He doesn't want to glamorize all that, the craziness, right? And I love that, because somebody like that could just talk about it and get clicks and get followers just from glamorizing that lifestyle. But he stays in true to what means what's right to him and the value that his story can bring. So it's a fantastic conversation. A little bit about him. He was told he would never amount to anything. And after that, he went on to get a master's degree from Wheaton College in Illinois and a Ph.D. in the New Testament studies and ethics from the University of Loyola in Chicago, and is also now a renowned speaker who brings a message of hope, forgiveness, and the power to change. He spends his time today reflecting, writing, and mentoring. His podcast and his YouTube channel challenge everyone to delve deeper into learning from life lessons of his journey and the people around him. So great conversation. If you guys aren't subscribed to this podcast yet, please hit the subscribe button wherever you're listening. If you're watching this on YouTube, Please hit the subscribe button and the bell to stay notified when the episode comes out. We got lots of amazing stuff ahead, and I don't want you to miss out on any of that. Also, if you guys get value from this, please to give back. If you want to help support the show, we just ask that you share it with somebody that you feel needs it, or if you want to help, leave us a review on Apple, leave us a comment on YouTube, something to show that you got value from this so that we know. Because sometimes as podcasters, we don't know if we're impacting you unless we hear. So it's really important. Send us a message, do whatever you can just to show that the show impacted you, and we greatly appreciate it. All right. Enjoy this episode. Dr. Jorge Valdés coming right up. And here we go. Dr. Jorge Valdés, welcome to the show, my man. I've been looking forward to this for a while. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Lance. I appreciate being here with you.
Yeah, this is a crazy world. And watching this docu-series was really something else, because I don't watch a lot of Netflix these days, but that story and that show was something that was really like sucked me in. And I was just so fascinated on the story and just everything that unfolded. And I really loved how you were in there talking about it, and also around the challenges that you had to face throughout all of that. And even later on, it's hard to imagine like what you would have to face from people, maybe coming after you with like their opinions or whatever. But you've come a long way and you've changed and you've done such a great job in giving back to the community and everything. So what I love to start with is really digging into your philosophy around narco mindset and how important it is and how you can really change your life with the right mindset. Walk us through what that actually means.
When I tell this to my children, I have 6 children. By God's grace, they're all super successful. And when people ask me, really, like, what is like one really principle, and I'll get into the mindset that I tell my kids, is that something that my dad used to tell my brother and I when we came from Cuba. And we're very, literally 2 raw eggs with a little powdered milk in the morning and rice and beans at night, no lunch, right? We didn't have enough money to eat. And my dad used to say to me and my brother all the time, I was 10, my brother was 9, son, in life, you have no say so whether you are sick or healthy. You don't have absolute control whether you're rich or poor. And I was like, yeah, I can figure that one out. You have no control whether you're dead or alive. There's only one thing in life that you have absolute control and you cannot sacrifice by no means. And that is your word and truth. Mm-hmm. So I built my whole life around that principle, that when we were little, my brother and I were like, oh my God, here comes the broken record. But I look back now, and it was that principle that allowed me to lay in the floor of a Panamanian prison. I had just turned 23, tortured day and night for 20 some odd days, no food, to the point where I bled for 5 years every time I took a piss. So when people ask me, what is it about you that you have no fear? What is it about you that you were able to overcome that? How was it that you were able to overcome 10 years in prison? How was it that you were able to forfeit $60 million to the government, go back to prison, come out, earn a Ph.D., and then build a multi-million-dollar business? And I said that is all about mindset. So when people say, what is mindset? I say, in life, it's absolutely insignificant what you're looking at unless you're able to identify through what lenses you're looking at that. So, for example, there's 3 people looking at the Grand Canyon: a pastor, a painter, and a cowboy. All 3 sitting next to each other, same day, same time, looking at the same identical scene. The pastor says, wow, what a great God I serve that created this beauty. The painter said, if I'm able to transport this beauty to my canvas, it'd be a masterpiece. The cowboy looks and said, man, it'd really be a bitch to get my cows from down there. So all 3 of them are looking at identical thing, and yet all 3 have a total different interpretation of what they are seeing. So what is the most important thing to me and what I teach about mindset is that your mind and how you look at the world and how you face adversity, right? Listen, that bad news will come to all of us at one moment in time. It could be the pandemic. It could be a horrible physical diagnosis. It could be we lost a loved one. It could be that we got scammed, whatever. But that bad news, in whatever shape or form, will come to all of us. So then the question becomes, what do we do with it? So that's where mindset kicks in. The mindset that allows you to inform all your decisions in life. The mindset that allows you to say, for me, for example, my mindset says, I don't know the word I cannot. In my mindset, the word is, how can I? My mindset said, there's no such thing as a mistake or failure. Failure doesn't exist to me because it's either I do something and it comes out wrong. I didn't fail. I have a great opportunity to learn. Now, if I do it again, it's not failure. It's just pure stupidity. I'm just a freaking idiot if I do the same thing over and over again. So that's my mindset that does that allows me to look at the world in that manner. Fear. I believe that fear is just the person that recognizes his weakness. What is strength? When I focus on what I know to be my strength, and that's how I look at the world. And in this course that I teach on the Narco Mindset Academy, I take 12 principles that allow me to build what I call the ultimate narco mindset. The mindset that I can overcome anything. The mindset that at the age of 36, I went back to prison, forfeited over $60 million to the government, another 5 years in jail. And I looked at the guard and I said, thank you. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, man, look, I had a lot of responsibility on the streets. A lot of people depended upon me, and I was a miserable person. Now you will take care of me. You will feed me. You will house me. You will clothe me. And I have 24 hours a day to make sure that if I ever get out of here or the day I get out of here, I'm going to be so much better than I am today. So where inmates would say, hey, George, you need to sleep 12 hours because if you sleep 12 hours, you sleep half of your sentence away. I'm like, if I sleep 12 hours, all I do is waste half of my life away. So see, that is my mindset, and that's how I look at the world.
Okay, but how, first of all, what you've been through is freaking incredible. And what's so interesting to me is most people would have never been able to bring themselves out of that. So there's something special there that I want to really hone in on, because that's the point, and that's what people have that get them out of these things. Is there's that switch, something that allows them to think differently, to move the direction differently. So what was it, and when was it when you got out of that flow of that prisoner mindset, that criminal mindset, when you were like, all right, here's an opportunity to learn, and here's an opportunity to do something else, because when I get out of here, I have different plans for my life. When was that? And what did you have to go through for that really to change? Or was it something that you always had that you didn't listen to?
It was really something that I developed as a young kid, is that the fact that all my life I worked. My dad dropped out of school when he was in 6th grade because he was very poor and had to go to work, and he became a millionaire. And by the age of 10, my dad had made my brother and I read every major autobiography. So we had read about Napoleon. We had read about Julius Caesar, Alexander the Great. We had read about Churchill. We had read about Jose Fouché, all of this. And that allowed us to see how literally all these great world leaders pretty much all were the same. They all had the same principles. They worked extremely hard. They sacrificed. They didn't matter how many times they got knocked down. That didn't mean nothing. That's just an opportunity to figure out how to get up better. So I developed that throughout my whole life. So including the fact that when I joined the cartel, I never saw myself as a criminal. I was a nerd. I had never done drugs in my life, never drank alcohol. And the interesting thing is, it did not come out in the series, but they asked me a question that's really interesting. No one ever asked me that, but it was really pretty accurate. Billy Corbin, the producer, just a great guy, genius. I think they did a fab. I ran from them for 3 years. They begged me for 3 years to do this, and I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do Cocaine Cowboys for one simple reason. Unless they were willing to show the really bad, because look, it's a glamorous life, right?
Yeah.
I mean, crap, you're 20 some years old and you're making millions of dollars. millions of dollars in jets, cars, mansions, date the most beautiful women in the world. Of course, it's attractive, but there's a very dark side to it. And my fear always was that if they didn't show that dark side, there would be a mother that would look at that show and say, hey, you guys think that's pretty cool, right? Well, I buried a child because of you, or a child or a kid dropping out of school to become me, you know? So I'm always very cognizant of that because listen, there was a lot of pain. We hurt a lot of people thinking we were hurting anyone, right? The old thing today, oh, what I'm doing doesn't hurt anyone. It only hurts me. Bullshit. It hurts everybody but you. I mean, you're the smallest of the victims. It hurts your parents, your family, your children, your community. So with that in mind, they asked me, hey, George, how was it that Pablo Escobar, Chapo, Sal, Willie, name whoever you want, they had as many passports as you did, fake passports. They had as many airplanes as you did or more. They had as much money or more than you did. And yet they weren't able to walk away, but you did. And I answered just on the top of my head because I didn't consider myself a drug lord. I was a businessman. See, and because I was a businessman when we started in the cartel, it isn't what it turned out when I decided to walk away from $1 million a month for doing nothing. We were businessmen. We had construction company. We built Miami. We had airline. We had coal mines, emerald mines. You know, we had a shipping company. We had a banana import company. So we were not drug lords. We were business people. And cocaine happened to just be another company that we owned. When I realized that that was not who I thought it was, which was for the rich and famous, the Hollywood celebrities. You know, think about Miami. You can buy a mansion, a nice 4-bedroom, 3-bath home at that time for $30,000, $40,000, and a kilo of cocaine was 70. So who was buying that? But then I went to prison and the world changed and I walked away. So I told them, I said, I walked away because I never considered myself a drug lord. And when I realized that the business I was in now had changed and now was killing kids, I walked away. They can now walk away because like at one part, it did come out on Netflix. Who would Sal Magluta be in Montana? This is high school dropouts. How smart are they? People thought they were smart. Think about it. How smart are you when you're wanted by every federal agency and you're giving an ESPN interview? I mean, that's really, really smart, right? I mean, look, I love the guy. He and I were like brothers. It kills me that he's doing the time that he's doing. I said it didn't have to be that. This story didn't have to end this way. This could have been an amazing story of redemption, of hope.
Yeah.
Yet I'm the only one that can tell a story of redemption. I started everything. If you look at the video Canary, and they arrest 130 people, which was the first big case in Miami, these people they were selling ounces in grams at a disco. Well, for 2 years, I was bringing 600 to 800 kilos a month, and they didn't even know my name till today. Till today, they never had a wiretap on me, and they've never had a compromising picture. If you look at my YouTube channel, you will find an interview that I did with my first undercover agent in my case. And he will tell you in that interview, we didn't even know there was a cocaine problem in America until we found out about Jorge Valdes. And that was because my attorney was ratting me out. That's how they found out about it. Otherwise, they would have never found out. I went to my office at 7:30 in the morning. I wore suits every day, and I left at 6:30. And I've had a lot of legitimate businesses.
Yeah, because you probably wouldn't have known the health, like the repercussions of what cocaine does at that time. It was so new to you guys, right? It was just something like you didn't know the consequences of what you were dealing with in that.
And none of us did it.
Really?
We didn't do drug or drink. See, people look
so interesting.
They look at the cocaine world post Pablo Escobar. Like everything starts with Pablo Escobar, right?
Right.
1982, 81, 82. Listen, there was a huge world before Pablo Escobar even existed. There was a huge world while Pablo Escobar was still stealing tombs from dead cemeteries. You know, the most powerful people ever in the cocaine business, I say prior to Chapo, because I would say Chapo was in a league of his own. What he ended up doing, I don't think anyone has ever done, you know? I mean, the dude had distribution in every continent of the world. But prior to that, or during the times of Pablo, the richest and the most powerful, no one knows about them because we were not out there up front. We were business people. And we loved that Pablo was getting all the publicity. But think about it. This whole world started 6 years before Pablo even existed. That we
Wow.
brought in thousands and thousands of kilos before Pablo ever stepped into the limelight. So
What was going through your mind when it started to get super violent? Like when you started to see your friends, like people dying, people getting killed and all that. It went from this business to like your friends are wanted for murder. And like it was insane, man, that how that docu-series went from how it started to the violence that went on in Miami was just like, it gives me goosebumps because it was freaking wild to watch that, man. Like I can't even imagine what it was like to see that from your perspective, like, or to hear what was going on. What was going through your mind when you started to hear what was happening with the escalation of that whole case?
well, think about this. So and when I went to prison, I mean, before I went to prison, we started the cartel from 76 to 79, which I went to prison, 80, let's say 1980, I went to prison. My godfather used to say, if you have to carry a gun, you should never be dealing with that person. We didn't carry guns. Literally, it was just wide open. We did 75 to $100 million on a handshake. So I go to prison for 5 years and I'm very detached from the world, right? Because in prison, you're not, if you want to do your time quickly, you got to make up your mind that you are in prison and not on the streets.
Right.
If your mind is half on the streets and half in prison, man, that time becomes enormous. So you got to you got to forget that there's a world outside that prison wall. And you do your time, you get into your routine, you do what you got to do, and that's how time passes quicker. So I had no clue. As a matter of fact, I go even further. When I was confronted, because here's what happened in my case. When I walk away in 1987, beginning of 87, I get arrested in 1990. I mean, there was nothing going on. The reason was because the government had a task force following me for all those years, 4 years, and they just couldn't take it that I walked away legitimate and I lived this legitimate life of a multimillionaire, right? I was making $1.5 million a year breeding horses. I had orange groves. So they wanted it all. And Jeff Sessions, well, because of my case, ended up becoming senator and then become attorney general. Actually, the guy treated me extremely fair. So with them, when I got arrested, for them, it was simply lots of money, little time, little money, lots of time, right? Because I had dealt, when I walked away, the people that I was working with prior to March of 87, they kept going. And then they got arrested in 1989, 1990. Went to trial, everybody got convicted. So literally, they could have charged me with a life sentence because when I walked away, the most you could give me was 15 years. But see, the law changed from that 15-year conspiracy to the minimum mandatories. So now that 15 years could be 3 life sentences. To import, conspiracy to possess what you were going to import, conspiracy to distribute what you were going to possess that you were going to import, even though nothing happened. So it didn't matter. You and I talk today and say, hey, let's bring in a load. And you make a phone call and say, where can I find the pilot? That's it. That's all you need, buddy, to get 3 life sentences. Yeah, it's a messed up justice system. But anyway, they want it all. I had just become a Christian and, I was miserable. I wrote a blog that I said, look, I'm 21 years old. I make $2-3 million a month. I have $1 million worth of cars, jets, helicopter, yachts, mansions, and I date the most beautiful women in America. And I want to die. And I want to die because, see, I thought that's what was going to make me happy. And in reality, now that I had it all and I was still miserable, I needed to find meaning to my life. And I knew there had to be more to it. And I began to realize that I was changing, that I was not the person that my parents raised me to be. I was college educated. So anyway, I forfeit everything to them. And the day that I got arrested, the only person that had said something, it was a lie, was one of the pilots in that case. And that pilot said, oh, I took Dickie Lynn, who used to be my partner, who ended up going to trial, getting a life sentence, didn't rat nobody out. He says, I took him to Miami. George picked him up about 10 o'clock. And then later on at night, he comes back. Somebody else brings him back with $3 million. And he says, oh, look what George paid me. Total bullshit. Anyone that knows something, even if that instant had been right, I would never go up to he would never go to a pilot. Why? If you want to do that, you would have taken the pilot with you, Anyway, we all knew one thing, that the weakest link in all of our organization was always going to be pilots. So that night, that they bring me to Mobile, Alabama, which I had never been in my entire life. That guy gets killed. While he's a government, while he's working for the DEA, he's using a DEA airplane to smuggle cocaine for himself. And he crashed in the fog. So they had no case against him. So I could have fought it. Could you beat it? I don't know. I mean, we had a hell of a chance. There's no witness. So, but I just couldn't take it anymore. I just felt that if God was going to change my life, the only way that was going to happen had to come. I had to put this whole world behind me. Now, I knew that I couldn't hurt nobody, right? Because statute of limitation had run out on everybody. So when you proffer to the government, even though your sentence is, in other words, I got 10 years, which technically was a violation of my parole, right? Because they didn't catch me with anything. So I'm admitting to violating parole. Long story is, you still have to confess everything you ever done. And you want to do that because you don't want them to ever come back with something you have not confessed to that they can charge you with. Mm-hmm. So you literally, when you enter into a plea agreement like that, and mine was money for time, you want to just, if you ran over a dog, you want to tell you ran over a dog, right? Because you got immunity from everything you've done up to that time. So years pass, I'm out, and they come get me. And they wanted me to testify against Sal and Willie. But the interesting thing is that Sal and Willie has me testifying for them, right? Mm. Because their whole defense was, hey, we were drug dealers, but when George quit, we quit. And what's the evidence of that? It was the evidence. What's the evidence? Well, when George got out of prison, if we had not quit, we would owe him millions. But because when he got out of prison, we gave him nothing because we told him we didn't do anything. See, technically, he had to give me, because I handed, like the prosecutor says, I gave him the keys to the kingdom, right? I mean, I handed everything on a silver platter. I didn't have anyone to run the cartel for me. And Sal and I have been, his father, my father were best friends. We called them Mama and Papa because they were like, loved them to death. So I literally handed him the keys. I said, hey, here's who brings it in. Here's the airstrip you bring it through. Here's the corrupt sheriff that will let you bring it in. Here's who you sell it. All you need to do is get a pilot. And they did. And they became very, very big. So technically, if they had kept on, they owed me, roughly $300,000-$400,000 per load that would come in. But when I went to see them, that I got out, which would have been like $27 million. When I got out, when I went to see them, they're like, we don't have anything for you. We ended up not doing anything. Now, did I believe that to be true or lie? It's insignificant. All I can testify under oath is to what I know, what I saw, and what I heard, not what I imagined. That's why in court, when I looked at him and they asked me, the defense asked me, do you believe, or the prosecutor asked me, do you believe that they quit? And I answered truthfully, I have to believe they quit. Because if they didn't quit, I looked at them in the eye. They were the biggest son of a bitches that ever walked this earth. Because the betrayal would have been too painful for me. And that was the truth to that. So they based their defense upon that. All the government was with me. I mean, the government had hundreds of witnesses. All I could say about them was, yeah, I got them started back in 1978. Well, that you can tell that all day long. It don't matter because that's 5 years outside the statute of limitations. So that was. But what I think about what they did is irrelevant. But the interesting thing is that even when I got out and I'm told about murders and all this, man, Lance, I would have put my hands on fire and swore to God that there's no way that he would have done that he would have ordered all those murders. That's how close we were, how we were raised, and especially him. I mean, he was raised in Christian summer camps every summer, and to go crazy like that. And of course, look, the evidence of the murder was overwhelming. The government lost the case because they, like everything the government does, you overplay your hands. More is not better. And they relied too much on the woman, and she was a drug addict. And you get good lawyers. See, all those lawyers they had, Sal specifically, his main lawyer, they were my lawyers. For them to represent them, I had to authorize them to represent them. The government was pissed at that. I'm here to tell the truth. And if they ask me, I'm going to tell the truth. You ask me, I'm going to tell the truth. So it doesn't matter. I mean, and so it was sad. It was sad that it ended like. So what happened, going back to your question, when I got out of prison and now I have to walk around with 4 or 5 bodyguards, now we have to carry machine guns. Now I have to have cameras all over my house and a tag dog. Now I can explain to my son when he would, hey, Daddy, I want to invite my friend Billy over to go swimming in the pool. And I'm saying, no, son, we're gonna be busy. Kept making up lies. How do I explain to how does his friend goes back home and says, "Oh, it was so cool to be at George's house because man, they got people with machine guns and they got attack dogs and cameras all over the place." You know, so to the moment that I just came to a point where I'm like, I can't take this. This is not who I am. This is not. This is not the victimless crime. This is people getting hurt now. And listen, at that time, Lance, from the day I came out of prison, I started all over again. I wasn't doing anything. I had one right hand guy that did everything. All I did is back it up. Say, send the cocaine, don't send the cocaine. And actually, when I came out of prison, is when they left for California, according to Netflix, I was bringing in more cocaine than anybody else again because all these people knew that this 23-year-old kid laid in the floor of a prison being tortured to death because he wouldn't rat nobody out. So I had a tremendous reputation, which is why so many people are dead and I'm alive. And I walked away, and it wasn't easy walking away from all that money and the power, which is the most insidious drug, right? The money is, after a while, I mean, how many houses, cars, and all that, but that power, man, the people worship you like God, that you can walk any place and have whatever you want, and date whoever you want, and people be scared to death of you. It's very difficult.
Yeah. Can only imagine what a world that was. And to your point, watching, when you get to know the characters in this, you see them in the beginning, they're these fun, lovable guys. And then towards the end, there's like this mass murder going on. You're like, what? How is this guy doing that? It was just such a crazy transition into seeing the chaos that was going on. And I can't even imagine what you must have been thinking when you got out. Like, what the hell is going on right now? And
when I saw they were running boats, I went nuts. I'm like, dude, you're not a freaking celebrity. You're a drug dealer, man. What the hell's wrong with you guys?
yeah, wow. Did you have any close calls? Like, were you worried about being like a hostage or anybody was there anything that you must have had like a lingering fear after for your life? No?
When I walked away from the cartel,
Yeah.
when I walked away, I thought I'd be killed within a month.
Yeah, because what's the process with that when somebody actually wants to walk away?
Well, we didn't have a very good retirement program. Let's put it that way. So, for me, I was just so desperate, man. I was just so desperate, and that I just couldn't take it anymore. And I moved. And one of the things that you want to change your life, change your environment immediately. I moved from Miami, and think of it. Listen, I used to think that the sun rose and went down in Miami. I mean, I love Miami. I had a lot of power in Miami. I had enormous respect.
Great city.
Yeah, and at that before I went to prison, it was just awesome, man. And then it became the most dangerous city in the world. So when I walked away, I didn't care if I would get killed because the thing with the cartel is the unknown. What they cannot put up with is the unknown. And what I mean by that, okay, so if I say, hey, I'm going to testify against Pablo Gacha, they're like, oh, I'm going to tell the government Pablo Gacha lands it. I don't give a shit. I mean, the government knows that already. What they cannot allow is for you to get up in front of 12 and point your finger, right? So when I walk away, their mindset is, why? There's no investigation. He's making $1 million plus a month for doing nothing. He's living the life. Why would he want to abandon this? When they cannot answer that why, the easiest thing is just take him out. When I went to prison, when I was arrested in Panama, within a year, the cartel went out and found the people that tortured. And they brought it to my parents' house to tell my dad, hey, be proud of your son. He didn't say a word. And the truth of the matter is, they didn't go find him to avenge me. They went to find him because they were convinced that there's no way a 23, this was February 29th, literally a month and 2 days earlier, I just turned 23. That this 23-year-old kid, wholesome kid, who worked for the Federal Reserve Bank at the age of 17 till he went to college and graduated, would be able to stand all those tortures. Because they knew very well how life was in South American prison. They knew that it's not the United States, where they're going to beat you to death. So they did to find out what I said. Now, they tried covering it up by saying, oh, we did it to make your parents, whatever. Anyway, I was like really pissed, right? Because I never told my parents about the torture. I didn't want to. I mean, what purpose would that have solved? My parents were innocent of this whole world. So, so I had that immense reputation, and that I didn't tell on anyone. I didn't. I was willing to be killed. Nearly came close to being killed. So even years later, when the Medellin cartel went against the Cali cartel and the Medellin got wiped out, I had just gotten out of prison the second time, and I was in Miami. I went shopping, and my father called me that there was this person from Cali in at the house waiting for me. And I'm like, I mean, what the heck? I'm like one of the few left from the whole world alive. And I went there because I've always believed you don't run from problems, you face them. If you run, you admit that what you are being chased for, you deserve it. So you face it. If you got nothing to fear, you nothing to hide, nothing to fear. So I went, and it was an attorney, and he had a message from the head of the Cali cartel. Say, hey, just want you to know that we have tremendous respect for you, and if you ever need anything, just give us a call. I could have hurt people in my first trial, or even when I was tortured. I could have hurt a lot of people that were just up and coming in that cartel before they became so powerful, But I didn't. I didn't. I just took my beatings, took my electrical shock to my testicles, and went on. Because I've always lived my life with the thought that I never want anyone to shame my children because of their father. And that's been critical for me. And it's evident. Look, I did Black TV. I don't know over how many millions of views already. I did Valuetainment. I think it's like 230,000 views. I wrote a book since 1998. I've been on a lot of big podcasts, television shows, Netflix. I don't know how many millions of people saw it. There's not one person yet to get up there and say anything negative about me. They might say I'm loud, I'm obnoxious, whatever the heck they want to, but no one can say with authority, hey, that guy's a rat. That guy did this. He hurt.
That's got to feel good, man, to have that respect for keeping your word. I mean, just there's not many people that can be that way in this world, in this life. There's a lot of people that don't keep their word for the simplest things.
And it's not that I disagree that there's not that many people that can be like that. There's that many people that choose not to be like that.
Right.
We can all be like that.
Right.
We can all be like that. It's just how much value. And that's why it pisses me so much when in today's world, truth doesn't mean nothing. Truth is the foundation of life.
Yeah.
If your word doesn't mean nothing, if you can get up there like all those politicians and on and on and on, and lie to your face, left and right, and you're going to support them because you like their agenda? No, to me, a liar is the lowest scum on the earth. I have no respect for a liar. I mean, what respect? And worse yet, when a person can look at you in the eye and lie to you. It's like you tell me, hey, man, you're just a piece of shit because I can lie to you. And you're going to say, oh, yeah, I love you. You're great. No, man, you're a liar. You're a piece of shit in my eye, period. Because there's nothing that is controlled by environment, circumstances, or nothing. You either tell the truth or you don't. Face the consequences. Every choice we make has a consequence. But interesting to know that every choice we make becomes part of our history, the story of our life, Yeah. So we need to ask ourselves what type of story people want to say.
Yeah. So much truth there. There's something that I want to ask you that, we talk about a lot on the show around trauma and around the effects of, the shit that we go through and how it affects us later on. You were tortured. Some terrible things were done to you. How did you deal with that emotionally? I mean, and how did it affect you? Did it, how did it show up in your life? Because that's some really crazy stuff that isn't the norm. And to be able to get through that and to be able to actually create a new life of purpose and meaning without this like addiction and, destroying your life. It's rare after going through something so serious like that. So walk us through that a bit.
Interesting is like I was saying, that news is going to come. That thing will happen. So then the question is your choice. What do you do with it? Do you allow it to destroy you? Do you ponder on it? Or you say, that was just another stage of my life. I overcame it. I'm better. I'm stronger. And I move forward. and I do not allow it to kill me, because then I give power to the people that were trying to kill me. So it really is all about a mindset. It's all about how we look at how we fall. It doesn't matter how we fall. What matters is how we bounce back from the fall.
But
You know,
but sometimes people that would go through that, it's not even a control. It's so deep in their subconscious that their conscious mind may think that they're in control of what they're doing, but there's these habits, there's these belief systems from such traumatizing events that'll surface, right? And I just find it fascinating how you've been able to, of course, the mindset is so important, but sometimes it takes, there's been people that have gone through a lot less that have been a lot more had a lot more long-term damage. And that fascinates me, right? And, people have to do this work and there's different ways to process this shit that we go through. And I guess that's so interesting to me, is to know that you've been able to really turn a really challenging situation into something, you know, so beautiful in your journey. But it's not always that easy for people. You know what I mean?
yeah. Look, it's how we process events and things. Yeah, and I guess to a great extent, it happens to how you've lived your life and what you've gone through and how you bounce back from events and how you continue to build,
Yeah.
and how, again, how do you have that mindset? I'll give you a perfect example. So when we moved, I've had a cardiologist in Palm Beach where I lived and for 3 years. And I used to do Ironman and ended up having muscle damage to my heart. Nothing. So, I go to the cardiologist twice a year, everything's fine. Suddenly, we move to another city, and my wife is, I want you to go to a cardiologist in this city. I said, I don't want to, because I only see the guy twice a year, and it's less than 2 hours away. My wife insists. I go see the guy, and, he's a professor and great cardiologist. And he's like, hey, you've had every test to your heart, and you never had a CAT scan. Why? I'm like, I'm not the cardiologist. And I've been going to the Cleveland Clinic, which is like the best in the country. But I was going to the one in Palm Beach. Anyway, so he orders it. The next day I go for the AKG, and the nurse comes out and says, the doctor will see you right now. So this is a Friday. He comes into the room. He's like, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to say. You should have never lived past 30 years of age.
Wow.
And I'm looking at, you read my book. This is my first thought. He's like, what book? I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, you have a very rare heart defect. And the only reason we ever find this defect is, you got the widowmaker defect, which is you're missing a valve and you have an artery in the wrong side of your heart and it gets squeezed. And you've seen it like Pete Maravich. You've seen like that this summer, that the young soccer player that died in the middle of a contest. Anyway, he said, I'll see you Monday because I got to research this. I said, all right. So I go Monday, no big deal. And he comes in and he's like, look, he said, you can die any minute. If I was you, I'd go to one of the big boys. And now this is a professor and a cardiologist saying, I would go to the Cleveland Clinic in Ohio. They're the best in the world. Well, my wife gets stressed. I mean, poor thing. She starts writing to the Cleveland Clinic and said, listen, you guys, my husband could have died. You've been seeing him for 3 years. You didn't discover it. She raised so much hell that Monday night, I get a call from the Cleveland Clinic in Ohio. And they're like, we looked at your chart. Can you be here Wednesday? 2 days. I'll say, yeah. She said, Thursday, you're going to see Dr. Gabriel, which is the best cardiologist in the country. Thursday, you're going to have a test. Friday, you're going to have a test. Monday, you're going to have the last test. Tuesday, you meet with the surgeon. And Wednesday, we'll do open heart surgery. So literally, 5 days of your life, you go from being super healthy, eating organic, exercising all my life, to knowing that I can die while I'm talking to you right now. So they run all this tests. And on Monday, when they ran that test, which was the most painful thing I ever had in my life, where it felt like they were going with a clothes hanger down my artery all the way to my heart, he comes and she says to me, it's really interesting because you got the healthiest heart I ever seen. You have 0 plaque. I can tell you've been an athlete and you eat well. He said, but this is all I can tell you, because there's no one like you that we know of. Your risk of dying is the same with the surgery as without the surgery. So I looked at it and said, doctor, you tell me that if I have the surgery, I don't better my risk of living? She said, no. She said, we just don't know because we never had the surgery done. So anyway, so I looked at it and said, doc, if that's the case, I'm going to go with Jesus. She's looking at me like, what are you talking about? I said, look, he made me this way. And I said, Doc, let me tell you how I look at the world. You don't seem to be stressed. I said, I would venture to say every patient I ever told, if I ever told this to any patient, they'd be like crying and weeping. And you're smiling. I said, Doc, let me tell you how I look at the world. My life is a win-win. I said, number one, if I die tomorrow, I'm going to see my mom, my dad, friends that I've lost, and Jesus. And if I don't, and I said, don't get me wrong, I'm not in a rush to get there. But if I don't, I'm going to continue to enjoy my wife that I adore, married 25 years, 6 children, 5 grandchildren. And I know that she was Arab, so I don't know if she believed in Christ or not. And I'm like, oh, and by the way, if there is no Jesus, I'm just going to be fertilizer like you. So, so she's like, all right, just see your cardiologist now every 3 months. And I want to see you twice a year. I want to see you every 3. So the other day when I went back to the cardiology, I walked in and I said, hey, Doc, I made it to another visit. And he's like, what are you laughing about? You know you can die? I said, Doc, I've been doing some research. And he's like, well, what'd you find out? I said, that's so can you. He's like, but I don't have a heart defect. I said, Doc, I never read anywhere in my research that you need a heart defect to die. So I got this heart defect. I can die any minute or I can live another 15 years. I don't know. Do I care? I said, Doc, I'm a Cuban. We like to negotiate. But my research also revealed that I can't negotiate this one. So I'm going to enjoy my life. I'm going to continue to do what I do. I'm going to help people. I live my life like I told my children. Before 35, have no fear. Take risk. After 35, have no regrets. I said, Doc, I have no regret. I've lived a hell of a life, longer than I should have lived. So if I stay, I'm going to help. If I don't, I'm going to be all right. And I have no control. So why stress over something I can't control? So that puts it into what my mindset is like. Am I afraid of death? Hell no, I'm not afraid of death. We're all going to die. I'm afraid of living and not having an impact on a person's life. And I prayed that when the pages of history are written, history will remember me. Not as that Netflix drug lord, will remember me as someone who made an impact in other people's lives. And that's what I live for.
Inspiring, dude. I really mean that. That's the thing is like you can say have a great mindset, but when you tell that story and just, from what I've learned about you is that you actually walk the talk. You actually apply that. And it's great because it really is a choice, right? Your perspective, your mindset is a choice. And it's great because it's such a powerful message on how you look at the world and how you look at the adversity in front of you, right?
Yeah. And I get people want me to coach them all, and I can't coach everyone. And I have a very balanced life. That's something that's critical. So I created this Narco Mindset Academy. People sign up to it, $47 a month, but that goes to buy books to prison because that's my mission now. Send 1 million books to prison. We send between 2020 and this year, we've sent over 80,000 books. We don't ask people for money, donation, my speaking fee, royalties, all that is in our income is what pays for it. But it's awesome because people go in there and I build it into 12 principles, 11, and you get to the crux. What is the crux? The code. What is it? What do you live by? What is it that when someone knows you, they know what you will do no matter what, and they know what you will not do no matter what. No circumstances affecting either one. That code that you live by. And I said to people, everybody wants to be better. And I get hundreds of emails. But dude, you want to be better? Or do you want to work on being better? The opportunities are there. We can learn. We can become better. We can build our mindset. We don't have to live a life of defeat, a life of anguish, a life of fear. Might as well die to live that way. So, but the question is, how bad do you really want? How bad do you really want to work on becoming that ultimate or having that ultimate mindset that it doesn't matter what you face, man. There's no fear. It doesn't matter. That you will overcome any obstacle, that you will live a fulfilled life, that you will be a person of purpose, of meaning, or you just want to go through life and just be, a comma in the book of life. It's our choice, We're all born with infinite amount and ability of learning. We are an unbelievable creation. It's just how bad we want to work on being that. How bad we care about being that person of purpose.
Amen. Where else can we find you? You got your book, Narco Mindset, the Narco Mindset Academy. Is there anything else that we can look forward to you coming out with? Or
Yeah, my Instagram account is where I really publish a lot of content. Every day I publish a short video or a principle. The www.narco mindset academy is my main program, which is, people work on each principle during the month. And the third Thursday of every month, I go live, Q&A, ask me anything. How can I help them become better? So I do that. And then, yeah, we're working on major Hollywood production. I'm working on something very, very exciting, which is to be part of a game for disabled children or people. Is the most undeserved population on earth, almost 2 billion human beings with disability. And there's no game for them that will help them, not entertain them, but will teach them and will help them to become better and to live a more fulfilled life. And so I've been asked to be part of it. And I'm very, very excited with the people. That's exciting. And then a major production about my life. I've turned down 5 studios. So somewhere around there, we're dealing with somebody now that will do something. Like I tell them, listen, I don't want to tell another narco story. I'm not a mobster. People tell me, oh, George, if you tell more cartel stories, you're going to have 1 million followers. I don't give a damn. I see all these mafia guys, and listen, I don't blame anyone for doing what they got to do to make money. But I see all this mafia guy, they open a YouTube channel, they got 500,000 followers, whatever, subscribers. I said, they start out, most of them telling how they ran it. And number 2, about their life in the mafia. And so I told this one guy, he says, I said, and who will I help? Listen, I can tell cartel stories till Jesus comes. Stories nobody ever heard. And yeah, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to glorify a world that is nothing to glorify. Whenever I tell a story like with Pablo or anyone like that, is to teach a bigger principle.
Yeah.
Because my mission, not to entertain people. See, those guys need those clinics so they can make a living. I'm a self-made millionaire. I'm retired. I have no debt. I live a hell of a life. I drive a brand new Rolls Royce. So I live a good life. I don't need clicks and subscribe. Whoever listens to my channel or sees my content is someone that wants to become better.
I love that, man.
No.
Yeah, because if your purpose was to entertain, you could do that, but your purpose is a bigger mission to, inspire people for their true purpose and to really, navigate life through a better way through their mindset. And it may be a longer path to get those subscribers, but it's more of a sustainable, more valuable path because you're actually helping people with the root of the issue. You're not just entertaining them on YouTube. Right.
Yeah.
And that's powerful, bro. And it's amazing what you're doing.
Think about it. I heard this podcast from a friend of mine, and it was really, really powerful. The guy said, imagine you walk into a Starbucks and there's 30 people that are willing to hear your story. You'll consider that a great success. So maybe I have 50 viewers of a video, some 300, 400. But whoever does, I can get the emails that I get, how I have changed their lives, how I have helped them. Listen, every time we tell a mafia story or a cartel story, we negate and laugh at the many victims along the way of those stories. We laugh at the many mothers that buried children, something that is totally against life. We laugh at the many children that grew up without a father. We laugh at the many wives that struggled to raise a child while their husband was in jail for being a selfish human being. Because anybody involved in a life of crime is nothing but a selfish human being that don't give a shit about nobody but them. That's the bottom line. So for me to tell those stories is for me to glorify life that I am embarrassed. I am ashamed that I was part of. I don't do what I do to erase or to make up for the bad I did. One thing I know, I didn't want to know was murder. I didn't kill anyone. But you know how many people overdose because of cocaine or crack that was a result of something that I started? So I am very repentful of that. And my heart breaks for all those people. So I refuse. And I will never. I don't give a damn. Listen, I don't monetize my videos. On my YouTube, every video I put no. There's no commercials on my videos. There's no ads. I don't give a crap about that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm going to live the life. I put all my kids through college. I've helped them buy houses. I'm helping my grandkids now. And I live a hell of a good life of my hard work, of believing in God, believing that there is that there's faith, that there's a God that forgives, that there's redemption, that we are not defined by our past, that we can redefine ourselves and reinvent ourselves, and that when the story of our lives keeps getting told, we keep making better chapters of that story,
Yeah.
and helping people, man. Listen, man, there's a lot of hurting people out there, brother. A lot of hurting people out there. And if we're not cognizant of that, and if we love all those stories, we need to ask ourselves, why do we love all those stories? What is there to love about killing people? All this mafia story, ratting people, killing people, bribing people. What is there to love about that? And you love that? Well, good. Shit for you.
Something to think about. Something to think about, everybody out there listening. This is powerful, man. And George, I just want to say thank you, bro, for what you're doing. And, I know we're out of time here, but, thank you so much. And I really appreciate you coming in and just dropping the real truth and value, and not just, the glamorous stories. Thank you for having a purpose, and thank you for really inspiring people, because the world needs it.
And listen, keep doing what you're doing with, bringing out that adversity and how people can overcome adversity, because adversity is killing us, man. It's killing us. We need to really, really believe in ourselves. And if we are a person of faith, believe in our God, or whoever God may be for us, but just believe that we can be better. We were created perfect. Bad choices have made us but we can become perfect again. We can become much better. And we can overcome adversity, because a lot of people, and listen, it's stress, mental health. Mental health is real. It's real. It's a lot. We don't want to talk about it, but people are struggling big time. And we got to be just cognizant of other people's pain, man, because the pain, this life will end. Listen, what you saw there was when I was 23 years old. I'm 65 now. So my life could have ended between that 23 and 65. My life could end any day. Our life is a fleeting moment, man. Help people. Think of people. Maybe just listen to somebody, and let them, just the ability that they know there's someone that cares and someone hears them out. That can bring a lot of relief to a lot of hurting people. So I applaud you for what you're doing. That's why I agreed to do your podcast. And I turned down a lot of podcasts. So yeah, man, I applaud you. It was great being with you. Great with my buddy that you talked to. And, have a wonderful Christmas and New Year's.
You too, my man. Thank you so much. Thanks so much. God bless you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. All the information is below in the description or the show notes of this podcast, or on YouTube. If you want to follow Dr. Jorge Valdés, highly recommend you do so. If you haven't seen Cocaine Cow, go check it out. It's really entertaining, and it's a wild story, Also, if you aren't subscribed yet to the podcast and you listen to this on audio, hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening to this. And if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the subscribe button also, and the bell to keep you notified. I love you guys. I appreciate all of you, and I want to continue to bring value and help you make change, help you change your perspective on adversity, and help you grow in this world. All right. Much love. We'll catch you next time.